So before you actually get a VPN service, you should understand what you're doing when you get a VPN service. You're basically, in the simplest sense, you're moving trust from your internet provider to your VPN provider, because your internet provider can't see what you're doing, but the VPN provider could see what you're doing if they log or if they analyze the traffic. Or if you're just worried, I mean, they could literally do anything. They could manipulate your traffic, put in ads. They could share your data to third-party sellers and advertisements. So I think it's really important to know who's running the service.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Hello YouTube, VPNTESTER on tour. Today we are introducing a special guy in a special city, but let's see what will happen. Hi David.
Hi Martin.
David, where we are now?
Right now we're in Stockholm, Sweden, at the OVPN office.
Good.
Yeah, it's good. We're a distributed team, but it was founded here in Stockholm. So we're 2 team members here.
Are you from Stockholm as well?
Yeah, born and raised in Stockholm, Sweden. So it's pretty natural that I run the company here since I'm from here.
Yeah, of course. That's fine. But where did you grow up? In Stockholm itself?
Yeah, so in a suburb just outside of Stockholm. Okay. It's called Sollentuna. And I grew up there together with my brother and parents. Yeah.
May I ask you how old you are?
I'm 28. And yeah. So I live with my girlfriend.
Tech entrepreneur with 28.
Yeah. It's easier to create a job than to get one. Wow.
That's great. Well, Sweden is famous for many companies, right? I mean, maybe our audience knows about IKEA, Volvo, Ericsson, right? Why do you think Sweden is a good place for a VPN company?
I think the Swedish laws allow us to value privacy and be privacy oriented. I don't see any difficulties with having a company in Sweden, especially a VPN company. There are quite a few actually that are in Sweden, so I think it makes sense.
That's fine. That's good. Why a VPN company? I mean, you're 28. All the world was in front of you, and you decided VPN.
So it's basically when I was finished with school, I worked for a bit at an ad tracking company, and I was a programmer there, and I was just astounded by the amount of data and data points that's able to be collected from every single visitor that was affected by the service. And I felt that it's insane the amount of data that's being collected. And I knew from before that VPN services is a good first step to ensuring your privacy. And it was also around the time that the Edward Snowden revelations came. So it was sort of this mix of items that really got me going into the privacy and security sphere. So that's why I started OVPN, because I wasn't satisfied with the existing solutions.
OVPN is already pretty successful, and you're also operating some other things, as we will mention later. So the question is, do you have any investors which have as well influence for the operational work or for the development of the company?
Yeah, so no investors. In the beginning, I just worked without a salary for the first few years, but no investors. There is 2 owners of the company. It's myself, and then there's Ruben Wren. And Ruben started working on OVPN very early on, and then he worked for 3 years tirelessly and really helped us create a good product. And then he felt it was time to move on, so he stopped working about 2 years ago, but he's still an active shareholder, and I discuss everything with him, and we still have our board meetings where we discuss the future.
How many colleagues does work together with you in the company now?
Yeah, so we're 8 people. So we're still a tiny company, but we try to do as much as possible with the resources we have. And I think we're very successful at being able to be efficient and creating great products and service.
And what is your tasks every day, or what is your job in the company?
Yeah, I mean, it's a small company, so my tasks change from day to day. I do a lot of sort of product management and creating roadmaps and talking with customers to see what do they want, what's not working out, and then sort of planning all of that with the developers and creating a good roadmap to ensure that we're able to satisfy the needs of our customers.
Do you understand yourself more as a technician or as a marketing guy?
Yeah, I'm definitely a tech nerd, so definitely a programmer. I've been programming since I was, I think, 13. My dad came into my room one day when I was playing Counter-Strike and came in and gave me a programming book and said, "Learn, this is the future." And I mean, he was right. So I loved being able to just tap on my keyboard and create stuff compared to like manufacturing goods. You know, I could just sit in my room tapping stuff and then building something and seeing it and instant rewards. So I got really tied up with that, and I dedicated a lot of hours for that.
That's nice. Many people say Sweden is part of 14 Eyes. That means that came out from Edward Snowden's files, as I know. Means 14 Eyes that Sweden is working very closely with United States together for espionage on surveillance on the citizens. Is that right, or what do you say about that?
I think 14 Eyes is quite overblown. I mean, firstly, because we know of 14 Eyes because of a leak. And there are 14 countries in it, and that's why it's 14 Eyes. But there has to be so many alliances between countries that we don't know about. So just because a company is not in the 14 Eyes does not mean that country does not have alliances with other countries sharing information. It's just that it's not public knowledge right now. And secondly, 14 Eyes is in its core a military agreement and alliance. It's not about spying on all citizens, ensuring that they know everything what every citizen does and beam it back to the United States. It's about surveillance regarding military threats and military assignments. And that information is shared between the nations. So I don't think 14 Eyes is of importance for a VPN company. I know a lot of VPN companies sort of push that they're not in a 14 Eyes, that they're instead in tax havens such as Panama and Gibraltar. But I mean, I don't see the issue with running OVPN in Sweden. We were in court recently, and because user information was requested from us, and I mean, we fought the court. We were in the court for 2 months fighting, and we came out victorious. And the legislative court said that, yeah, OVPN does not need to keep logs. It can run its service as it is. It's entirely legal. So I think now we've also proven that it's entirely possible to have a privacy-oriented service in Sweden.
There are many companies in VPN sphere already, yes. Was some of them, how can I say, was the plan to become like any other service, or how you were motivated to do the VPN service, and what is your idea behind to do it?
Yeah, so I would say that we've always focused pretty much on ourselves and done our own thing. Haven't really compared or competed a lot against other VPN providers. But if you think about the market as a whole, I would say our niche is towards people that want to trust and verify and that want privacy and security online, because our focus has always been like ensuring the security and integrity of our service. We're very transparent on how we do this. All over our website we have very detailed information regarding how we do every single step. So that, together with the actual security precautions that we have done, definitely make us more interesting for the people that know and understand what we write. Yeah.
There's another service which is also called OVPN, but with a different domain ending. And they say no one can find them. They're completely anonymous operators of the service, right? Yeah. So that's why we provide the best anonymous service. Yeah. But now you're sitting here, we know your name, we are here in the office, we can prove this. So you go a totally different way. Why?
Yeah. I mean, I don't buy the fact that they run a secure service because you don't know who they are. They could equally be the police. They could run the service from an agency or whatnot.
Or any criminal stealing data, yeah.
Yeah, any criminal, data harvesting, anything. So before you actually get a VPN service, you should understand what you're doing when you get a VPN service. You're basically, in the simplest sense, you're moving trust from your internet provider to your VPN provider. Because your internet provider can't see what you're doing, but the VPN provider could see what you're doing if they log or if they analyze the traffic. So if you don't know who you're entrusting all of your data with, I mean, that's not a good solution if you care about any sort of security or privacy. Or if you're just worried, I mean, they could literally do anything. They could manipulate your traffic, put in ads. They could share your data to third-party sellers and advertisements. So I think it's really important to know who's running the service.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
We have tested many free services, or especially free apps in Play Store, which are just collecting data from the users.
Yeah.
That's why we are free.
Yeah.
Because we earn money with your data.
Yeah. If you don't pay, you're typically the product.
Absolutely, yeah. Many of these services, what I mentioned now, have funny names. Turbo, fastest, super speed, whatever. Mm-hmm. Most privacy, VPN, I have no idea what. OVPN is even difficult to spell, most probably, for some people. So why OVPN?
So it was basically that I created OVPN because of my frustration regarding the data trafficking, all of the traffic that could be stored and all of that after school, and the Edward Snowden revelations. So I just wanted, in the simplest sense, that OVPN, it's open VPN, and I didn't put that much thought into it other than that. I didn't realize I would do this for the next 6 years and 10 more years. It wasn't that thought process that I knew that I would succeed in what I was doing, because I didn't know if people actually had a demand for the type of privacy-oriented service I wanted to have.
So as I understand, the name was not important in
No.
the idea of founding, because it's not a marketing product, as I understand.
Yeah.
It's a product, what you do for your idea about privacy.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Many companies, VPN providers, operate their companies in Seychelles, Panama, because they say, wow, it's much more secure there. And I believe, of course, we're also saving some taxes. And I know here in Sweden, taxes is not the lowest thing. Yeah. So you pay taxes in Sweden?
Yes.
And you don't have to hide the company?
No.
Well, it's like this.
Yeah. I don't see any reason as to move a company to Gibraltar or any of the other Panama islands. The only reason I can think of is that you don't want to pay taxes. and you don't want to contribute to society. And I feel that it's, even if I don't love paying taxes, it's important to do. And if I'm from Sweden and we have good privacy legislation, so I don't see why I would move the company abroad.
Maybe because of people like you here in Sweden, Sweden is the country as it is. Yes. Many providers say they are the most privacy secure providers, or the most secure providers, or the fastest providers. How long does the service exist now? Since
So we turned 6 years in August. Yeah.
What is OVPN standing now for?
Right now we stand for transparency and privacy and verifiability. That, I mean, providers come and go. Most providers are owned by a single company and it's not really clear. And we just want our users to be really safe and knowing that we're a transparent provider and we're honest and we're trustworthy, and that we always have our customers' best interest at heart.
When you answered now, I remembered that many providers say they were using RAM disk. That means we're not using hard disk for the servers.
Yeah.
Maybe to explain for our visitors, for the people who are watching our video now, but hard disk means any server which has connections to VPN clients, so the clients connecting to the server, have log files, right?
Yeah.
In the moment when they are processing the data, they need to have. But the question is, what happened after that with this data? So is there log files locally saved or not? And many providers say they are using RAM disk because they say if they're using the RAM as a disk space and you plug off the electricity, then it's all the data is gone automatically. Yeah. And before we had this interview, we were visiting your data center.
Yeah.
And you showed me that your servers have absolutely no hard disk.
Yeah.
What else do you do to secure your servers?
Yeah, so we were actually the first VPN provider that did not use hard drives. And I know there are other providers that say they were the first, but and they say it is innovation, but we did it back, I think 2016. So besides just running the all of our servers on RAM, we also have a very optimized and minimized operating system on the servers. So for instance, they don't have any support for USB. So if you would try to connect a keyboard to the servers or try to input data, it doesn't work, and none of the other ports work as well. So we have a lot of actual physical hardening items that we have done. And we can do that because we own everything. Every single server in our infrastructure is purchased and installed by us or one of the data centers that we have shipped it to.
So hardware belongs to you?
Yeah, every single server is purchased and owned by us. And that allows us to really customize the hardware that we're using, but also customize the software that we install on the servers to ensure that there aren't any potential leaks.
What is if let's make, for example, someone switches off your server from power, the server will start again, and as you said, it will take the firmware for the server again, will load it. What is if the software or this firmware is manipulated?
So there are a lot of checks to ensure it's not manipulated. Basically what happens is the software is downloaded automatically, and then it checks to make sure that it hasn't been manipulated during the transfer by using something called a checksum. So it checks with the remote the remote server that has the software that's loaded, and it makes sure that it hasn't been any sort of manipulation.
Mm. I saw on the website as well that you have insurance.
Yeah.
Why? A car insurance I also have, but I mean, why you insure for, why you have an insurance to make, to pay for lawyers?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, we know that lawyers are expensive, and if something happens, we want to have the financial muscles and resources.
So if a customer wants his money back, yeah,
No.
you can fight against him.
No, we're generous regarding refunds. It's if an agency or movie companies want information from us, we can take them to court, and we don't have to be worried about, okay, do we need to stop development now because we can't afford our developers? No, we can just proceed as usual because we have an insurance that helps us cover any sort of trial costs that we have. So it's really a way to minimize the risk of being in court and all of that, while still giving us the resources to ensure our customers' privacy.
Okay, that means, because you said about copyright infringements, that means you are protecting criminals with your VPN service?
I wouldn't say so. I, of course, don't want to condone any illegal activities, and I think if there are any illegal activities, it's quite few users. But when you're building a service and it's privacy conscious, you either have to make a decision when you're building something, all right, should we be able to monitor and really stop abuse, or should people have the same rights online as they have when they're offline and they just talk to each other? There's no in between. There's not, okay, I only want to log certain users. I mean, if you build in logging mechanisms, it can be activated for any user. It can be activated for everything. So it's really one or the other. And we decided to be privacy conscious. So we don't do any sort of logging, but we of course also don't condone illegal activities. We don't want it to happen, but sometimes it does happen, and yeah.
There is in European Union the discussion ongoing since a couple of years for two things. The first thing is, of course, the surveillance on the people. Should all activities be stored? Yeah, they say always to protect the people from criminals or to protect them. And the next thing is we try to make providers responsible for the content they can get. So that means internet providers more or later, or maybe have to block sooner or later access to not suitable content, let's say like this. What do you think about that? What will happen?
I think it's difficult to say. Every country acts differently in terms of it. I do think surveillance is going to increase. I think it's a lot about wanting to have too much data than too little data. So I think the surveillance is only going to increase. But I'm not sure how big of an effect it really has. Last week, the Supreme Court in the US ruled that NSA surveillance was not justified at all on their citizens, because the NSA had said, we stopped certain bombers because of it. And the Supreme Court ruled that no, it wasn't due to this. The mass surveillance was unnecessary. So I think it's going to increase, even though it doesn't have to increase.
But at the end, most of all laws, what we see in European Union, what the states are taking in place, are to internet access providers. And practically you are not an internet access provider. That means you're not covered by the laws about responsibility of content.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is a very important thing. That means VPN providers maybe has more time, or maybe will never be forced to log.
So just to expand on that a little bit, in Sweden there's at least laws as to exactly what defines an internet provider and who's not an internet provider. And because our service works over existing connections, we're not an internet provider, and therefore we're not under the same laws as people that actually provide the physical cables. And they're forced in Sweden to do data retention, which basically means that they need to store which IP address communicated with which IP address and how much data was sent for 10 months right now. So it's a lot of information that they want to store, but as a VPN, we're not tied to that legislation, so we don't have to store anything.
Mm-hmm. So when people are using an internet provider in Sweden, their data gets stored for 10 months. Yeah. If you're using a VPN service or your VPN service, the internet provider can lock just the connection of encrypted data from his internet access to the VPN provider and nothing more, nothing less, right?
Exactly.
That's good. Another thing, we have tested a lot of VPN services, and we do regularly based speed tests with all of them because we believe that one speed test alone is not enough data to say is it fast or not. It depends on many, many different factors as well as the protocols. OVPN, since 1 year, is always on the top and the fastest VPN we know. I mean, maybe in data, the second fastest delivers about 450 to 500 megabits per second maximum. And with OVPN, we had more than 800 megabits. So the difference is super huge. Why is it like this? Why is your server so fast? Low encryption, maybe?
Definitely not. So we're doing some of the highest encryptions available. But what differentiates us is that since we own the entire infrastructure, we can purchase equipment that has specific criteria that are very good for encryption. So we purchase servers that are explicitly good for encryption. And then we've also done a bunch of modifications in the kernel to ensure that we can do packet processing super quickly without wasting resources. We also work together with data centers that have good peering connections, and we also decide the peering ourselves and the transit providers. So we really have an overview of so many factors, so we can really customize and make sure that we have top speeds. As soon as we reach 60% in a data center, we add more servers because we want to be able to increase the burst during the evenings. And we're just very aware of what we're doing.
It seems like that you're doing a good job, in this way.
Thank you.
Another product, what was about speed and how we found you, by the way, was because we were looking for a fast VPN router. And I do remember 2 years ago, it was already maybe 2 years ago, I bought the first Wibergh router to test it. And it was super fast. I mean, with more than 400 megabits per second on a router. The second fastest router maybe is with pfSense and costs much, much more. Yeah. And the second fastest in the residential market, in the private market, is maybe Asus router, but it costs the same. And it has just 100 megabits a second. Yeah. So Wibergh was super fast. And then this was the way how we came first time to you. Why do you produce also own routers? I mean, isn't that hard? I mean, software, tech company, yes, and then hardware?
Yeah.
What for?
Hardware is complicated. It's also a lot of fun. But it originally started from OVPN, just being a VPN company and having customers using pfSense because they didn't just want to protect their computer or their phone. They wanted to have a simple way to protect all of the devices in their network. So people used pfSense. But pfSense is super complicated. People have to purchase a mini computer. then, reflash that software, install pfSense, and then do a pretty complicated setups, which usually led to DNS leaks and just a bunch of leaks. So they basically were less secure because they wanted a more secure solution. So we really saw that there's a need for a VPN router that specifically does encryption better and that makes setup so much easier for users. So Wilfo is a router, but it's basically a computer that we've then modified to act as a router. So it has a powerful processor, which is a requirement to be able to handle encryption speeds, to handle and increase speeds. And we also really focused a lot on making the software super versatile and powerful. So with Wilfo, you can have as many as 10 VPN connections at the same time, and you can pick and choose. So you want to have, okay, your TV should be on this VPN connection, your phone's on this, your girlfriend's phone's on this, and you can just really customize, which is pretty awesome because typically if you play your Xbox or PlayStation at home, you might not want to have that on a VPN because you really care about the latency. And you might want to have your TV connected to the US because you want to watch American Netflix. And TVs typically don't have any sort of VPN support, neither does Xbox. But with Wilfo, you can customize so the TV is connected to the US, your ordinary phone and computer is connected to Vienna, and your Xbox doesn't have to be connected to a VPN at all. So it really gives you a lot of power and the ability to customize as much as you want. And it does it securely and easily.
Yes, we love this router because of this.
Yeah, yes. I love it too.
Or this computer which is acting like a router,
exactly,
as you said.
Yeah.
It's based on OpenVPN. I mean, there is many different protocols, and when we see about the history of VPN itself, it's 18 years ago or something. It started with PPTP, and then L2TP added, and L2TP was not secure on Windows, so we added IPsec, the Cisco service, and so many different protocols are available meanwhile. Most popular is of course OpenVPN. It's one of the most often used ones, yeah, but this is limited because of resources, yeah, which it takes. WireGuard. Yeah. OVPN was also one of the first providers, maybe the first provider, which were providing WireGuard clients and WireGuard servers. Why did you choose to use this protocol so early?
Yeah, so WireGuard is created by Jason Donenfeld, and I talked to him a bit, and we also experiment quite a lot with WireGuard, and we noticed that it's really fast. It's even easier to set up than OpenVPN, and it's fast because it uses modern encryption algorithms that OpenVPN really hasn't had time and resources to build into their protocol. So WireGuard really enabled us to increase our customer speeds even more. And it also benefits users because since it's not as, it doesn't drain as much resources because it's much more efficient, it allows users to also get better speeds because their hardware is able to encrypt speeds faster. So it's really a win-win in all cases, and it's really an interesting and awesome protocol. And we have deployed it across all our servers, and our Android app uses it, and our iOS app will use it, and desktop clients and everything. And I mean, we're really impressed with their work.
And what is with Wilbo? Yeah. Will he get WireGuard?
Wilfo will get WireGuard.
Okay. There was some news also about, I do remember it was maybe 2 months ago, about the Pirate Bay. And there was a court case where, in this court case, there was written that the Pirate Bay were using an IP address from OVPN to protect their own identity, but they make advertisement for different VPN services usually. Can you say something about this case?
Yes, so being in Sweden, everything is public information. So anyone can download all of the court documents. It's in Swedish though, so it might not be super easy for everyone to understand. But everything is public information, and we have also published it on our website. Because being a transparent provider, we think it's really important for users to know what's going on. So as soon as we actually received the court documents that we were targeted by the Rights Alliance, we published that information together with our stands and reiterated our commitment to ensuring our customers' privacy. So it took 2 months, and it was a lot of documents back and forth and a lot of argumenting, but we won just because we did not know which customer it was. Because we didn't know I still don't know if the Pirate Bay was an actual customer. I mean, the IP address is ours, but I don't know if they are a customer right now. I don't know if they were. And we can do this because of the laws in Sweden, and we proved it right. Right now, OVPN is one of very few VPN providers that have had these our claims actually proven and verified. Because everyone says no logs, but no logs typically mean some logs. And it's a lot of companies do it as a marketing stunt, and we've actually been proven and verified that our no logs mean no logs.
Oh, well, I was thinking about this also very often, that by US law, the CEO of a company which is not cooperating with the authorities will not get a fine. He will be in prison. But I don't know any CEO of a tech company for email providers or VPN services from America, like IPVanish or others. They are not in prison, yeah? And maybe the reason is because there is some logs. And if the authorities ask for, then maybe it happened. But I believe that you're doing in the right way, and it sounds logical for me.
I mean, there are published cases when American VPN providers have kept logs and have helped FBI. So, and they say no logs, but there were logs.
Yeah, maybe they did not log when the guy was opening or starting his computer or not.
Yeah, maybe. Because the software wasn't running then.
Yeah, exactly. So no logs from everything. Yeah. Okay, this is it's a very serious thing, even when we're laughing about that. And many of our readers are really very serious and sensitive about these topics, of course. That's why we should give this always attention.
Yeah.
Did you ever try other competitors? I mean, by yourself?
Yeah, sure.
Which ones? And what do you say about that?
Yeah, I think I've tested the big ones. I've tried NordVPN. I wasn't particularly impressed with the software, but I mean, it's always cool to see they have 1,000 servers in Germany. I mean, that's cool. They have a very nice website and marketing plan and everything. But it was totally fine, and I understand why some people use NordVPN. I've tried the Swedish VPN provider Mullvad. I think
it's also very popular. Yeah.
Yeah, they work together with Firefox right now, or Mozilla, for their VPN service, and I think they're doing a lot of things right. They're similar to OVPN, and they focus a lot on the privacy and security. I mean, we're not as any of those services. Mulvad doesn't help with any sort of streaming. They only want to focus on a specific niche. With OVPN, we unlock a variety of streaming services as well, while still being very focused on the security. But I mean, Mulvad is doing stuff great as well, and so are some other VPN providers.
So if you're looking for a job, you can start with VPNTESTER.
Yeah, all right,
so
that's awesome.
How did you protect?
So I'm personally on Mac. I use a VPN provider called OVPN. Very satisfied. And I use an antivirus. At times I change between just to compare. Right now I'm on a Norton antivirus. I mean, every person has to somehow think about their threat model. Am I worried? Do I live in a country with a lot of censorship, and am I a journalist or a lawyer, or what's my threat model, as you say? And you really have to take precautions depending on that. You might want to use Tails. You might want to use Tor instead of a VPN. You might not think you have a threat model, and you don't use anything. I'm somewhere in between in my terms of threat model. I have everything encrypted, the hard drives and everything. I encrypt my internet traffic by using OVPN. I use Wilfo at home. I use Wilfo at the office as well. I use multi-hop, so it's routed through multiple data centers. But
What's the benefit of a multi-hop?
so multi-hop benefits because basically what happens is, if we're here in Stockholm, if I connect to our Stockholm data center and I use multi-hop, the traffic is routed from Stockholm to, let's say, Frankfurt, and then out to the internet. So it goes through multiple countries, and it's encrypted twice between them, which makes it really hard for authorities basically to monitor it, because it really requires state-level actors to be able to somehow try to figure it out. And by sending it through multiple data centers, it's basically very difficult to find out who's the originator of that traffic. Because the VPN server that I'm connected to in Stockholm is the only IP that the server in Frankfurt knows. So the Frankfurt server doesn't know anything about me. So everything is routed through multiple steps.
What's the future of OVPN? What will you develop? What's next? This year we had, WireGuard is already last year, I guess. Yeah. This year we got the new Android app. Yeah. It's out now. We got new servers in Germany. We got new servers in Austria, as I do remember. Yeah. What's next?
A bunch of stuff. Every year I sort of publish an article stating what we have done during the previous year. Sorry. And then what we have planned for the next year. So it's always very easy to follow our roadmap. It's an overview of what we're doing.
Transparency about the future.
Yeah.
About the company secrets.
Exactly. So all of our competitors can do this stuff before we do it ourselves because we write about it. So what we have planned for next year is an iOS app together with an Android app. It's actually being developed now, so it should be in the beginning of next year. And then, including WireGuard better in our desktop client, continuing to expand the server network, and then we're not satisfied with the speeds yet. So even though you get 800 megabits per second, we still want to get that up. So there's a lot of additional tweaking that we're doing. We're testing different network cards to install on the server to see which ones are able to give us higher speeds. We're really focused on the overview, but the overview is so many tiny parts that we even purchase different network cards and try to tweak them and see how much we can actually get out more from this one versus that one. So So that's sort of what's happening with OVPN in the future, at least for the next 6 months, I would say.
That's nice. David, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for hosting us. I want also to say that you can confirm we came here, we bought our tickets by ourselves.
Definitely.
We paid for ourselves for our hotel room, so we are not paid by you, right?
Yes.
Not yet, right?
Not yet.
No, kidding, of course.
Yeah.
And that will not happen. So this interview did not happen because of advertisement, your service. We were just interested in you as a person and you as a service. And we enjoy Sweden until now very much. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming and for being such a good guest and for wanting to come. It's been a pleasure.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Switch off.